guys, welcome back for day 12. Should be the last kind of finishing touches kind of day before I start assembly. Chloe's helping me. Got another tool. This is a really special one. You might have to mail order it. Kind of hard to find. It's a pipe. It's a 1 foot section of 1¼ inch pipe. And this is what I'm going to be using to put on the new bearings. Since temperature really helped to take them off, at least this one here, I'm going to use it to my advantage to putting them back on. I'm going to use the heat gun on the new race so it can slide down here real quick. I've got the old bearing which I cut completely through, so it's not an interference fit. I'm going to flip that upside down and I'll show you with the new bearing before I heat it up what I'm going to do. So the new bearing will go on, the seal will go on, the new bearing will go on. This old bearing upside down will slide on top, but it won't be stuck on the shaft. And then the pipe I'm going to pound on, which will hit the old bearing, which is on top of the inner race only of the new bearing, because one wrap to that new cage means you need a new bearing. So I'm using this old one to my advantage. It's got the nice lip. If you turn it upside down, it's only going to hit the inside race of the new bearing, so it'll be completely safe. And I'm hoping with the temperature, it's going to slide pretty much all the way down. Just need a couple hits, and we'll call it good. And then, of course, I'll grease up the new bearing. The steering stem bearings should go in with, maybe a block of wood, a couple big sockets, and some grease. Shouldn't need to do much here. I'll stick them in the freezer just to kind of help, and that should let them at least slide most of the way in pretty easily. That's a theory anyway. We've had a lot of theories, so we'll see how it goes. Other than that, I'll be doing the valve adjustment today. I'll just get that out of the way. I'm going to take that fake swing arm off. Turns out the other side is fake too, but it's not bolted on. You'd have to cut it off, and it's not really worth doing that. The Dremel would take forever to go through those steel tubes, so I'll just leave that one. That's covered by the exhaust anyway. It's no big deal. But I'm definitely taking that fake one off, save a few pounds for absolutely nothing. Kind of dumb. So that's it. Let's get started. So here's what we've got. Got our new seal. Put it on lip facing up. That just sits down there. That's not an interference fit. We've got our new bearing. This is what's going to be a little tough to put on. This really should be the last. Ooh, windy. Sorry if the wind's affecting the mic there, not sure. This is really going to be the last pain in the ass part about the project. Steering stem bearings, man. Can't say I want to do these again. I've got the old bearing, which, as I said, I cut. And the idea is this is going to go upside down and just act as a driver, basically. We want to slide it down and make sure it's not going to get stuck. And it looks like it is a little bit. So what I'm going to do is put this in a vise and smack it, spread this a little bit with a chisel. So now I should have that opened up just a little bit by spreading it. Let's test again. Looks like it's hanging up just on the little tiny bits of metal where I was hitting it with the chisel to get the race off. So I need to smooth these little nubs down a little bit, and then it should slide no problem. You also don't want the new bearing catching on any of that. It's not going to cause any damage or problem with the bearing because it's above where the bearing is actually going to be seated. All of that surface is perfect. This was just from trying to get it off. Let me clean that up. Quite the pain in the ass, let me tell you what. Alright, even after cleaning everything up, turns out that it's still an interference fit. You can see this section where it's polished down in here at the end. It's just slightly a larger diameter. And even though I had slotted it, I cut a bigger chunk out of it, still didn't help. You can't spread this. You know, it's hardened steel. So what I did is I almost cut it in half. It's held on this other end by just a sliver. And it's super hot right now because I just cut it, but after it cools down, I should be now able to spread it just a tiny fraction of a millimeter, so it's not an interference fit, and that should do it. Whew, still hot. So we'll find out in a second. Well, that didn't work. As soon as I started to spread them, they just snapped in half. But that's okay. I'm just going to use these and set them in place, just to make sure that they don't fall out after I wrap it with the pipe. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. I guess that solves the problem. Man, oh man, I'll tell you, if the pipe was just half a millimeter smaller in diameter, it would have fit on the inner race absolutely perfectly. But the taper of this first thread just touches that cage, so I didn't want to chance it. Anyway, we'll get this on now. So what I'm going to do off camera here, because I got this set up, is I've got the heat gun I'm going to put on the new bearing, and I'm going to very quickly transfer it over. So I'll have the camera set up here so you can see this going on. New game plan. This one should be a winner. Forget the old bearing. I took the grinding cone on the Dremel and pretty much ground off the first couple threads on the pipe. And we need to make sure that it's not contacting that outer cage. I've got it fully seated on the bearing flat, and I can spin the cage so it is only on the inner race. Now I should be able to use a metal hammer. Actually, I'll probably get a little block of wood because my hammer is going to go right through the middle of that pipe, and we should now be able to drive that in. Let me grab some more supplies. Alright, it's on there. Now we got to grease the crap out of it. Actually, I'm going to give it a few minutes because that brake cleaner's in there, and I want it to evaporate as much as possible. What I'm going to do also is heat it up with the heat gun, help that get going. I want everything nice and hot so I can put the grease on there and help it flow inside. You want it absolutely packed with grease. Tell you what, after doing this now, I would absolutely bring this into a shop to be done. I seriously never want to do another one of these again. It's one of those things where it's so worth the 50 or 100 bucks even just to hand it to somebody with all the right presses and everything and get it back an hour later and just be done. This has been at least 4 hours and 3 trips to the store now. Just not worth it at all. Now, I'm not going to get this too hot because I got that seal under there. But I do want to get it started. I'm just going right above the bearing here on the shaft. Just going to hit it for 20 seconds or so. Help that brake fluid get out of there. I want to get the cage nice and hot. I can see the brake fluid bubbling and evaporating away. That's what I want. That's good. So now let's pack that sucker. You really want to force it in there. Take as much as you can. And then we're going to rotate it around. Get it working. You want it to be completely silent. Don't worry about making a mess. Messes can be cleaned up, but this is a one-shot deal. Press it in there. Get it under the bearing lip or under the seal lip. Every cavity must be filled with grease. That's feeling pretty good. That heat will help that grease kind of almost liquefy as it gets in all the crevices. Make sure nothing's crunchy. Otherwise, you gotta start over. Alright, we're nice and smooth. Wow, that sucked. Okay, now the other two, not nearly as much as a pain in the butt. We just gotta put the two races into the steering head. I gotta stick those in the freezer. Should have done that before, but I forgot. And those will simply get tapped in with a socket and a hammer. No big deal there. Just gotta make sure it's cleaned out with brake cleaner. We'll apply some grease into the steering head and on the outside of the races first. And that's all we have to do there. Everything else is spinning nuts, spinning bolts. I gotta clean up all this fork mess too once we get it on. Yippee skippy, done with the pain in the ass part of this whole build. New races are ready to come out of the freezer. I've got the frame cleaned. We're gonna add a thin layer of grease just to help it slide. Got a big socket that just fits the diameter of it here. This is what we'll drive the new race in on, and a slightly bigger one for the bottom. That'll go in the same way. We'll do one at a time so that it doesn't lose its cool. Put the grease in the bottom here. Alright, it's ready to go. Let's give it a shot. Thick side facing in, work quickly. Freezer didn't do a dang thing, it is solid. Quite the interference fit for these bearings. So I'm just going gently, side to side, driving it evenly in. Now that we're just flush, you need to be real careful so you're not pounding on the frame. Work it all the way down. You can feel with your finger to where it's seated on the shoulder. It's just a tiny, tiny bit left to go. A couple wraps is all it's going to take. And just make sure it's completely evenly seated, and it is. Maybe a little more on this side right here. There we go. Top done. Yeah, if you're doing one of these, don't bother with the heat or cool, man. It just doesn't make a difference. There's too much of an interference fit. I would have had to heat it up the frame, and that would have cooked the grease, so there's no point doing that. Let's get the bottom one in. And then be done with this son of a bitch. Okay, and that one's in. Had to finish it off with very carefully using a smaller socket because that big one had too much of a rounded edge and it was just sliding off once I got it inside. Only had to go up, looks like about 4 millimeters inside the frame, and just very, very gently tapping it up. Didn't take much, the grease kind of helped. So now these are both seated as much as they can be, hammering them in. They'll be finally seated when we apply the torque to the upper steering head nut. Now I didn't buy the special tool for that because frankly it's 90 bucks. Couldn't find any that are in the US, so it would have been a week or two just to get here, and it's a single-use tool. It's not a spanner like the Yamaha and like pretty much every other bike I've seen. It's a special socket, and it's just got 4 little legs that fit into those slots, so you just crank on it directly. The other way to do those is basically using a drift or a punch and hammering it into those slots, basically to tighten it, like in a circle. And you do have to guess at the torque, but there's an easy way to do it. The reason you torque that down is to fully seat the bearings, and you do have to do it periodically. Now this is being basically reset to a 0-mile bike, so after 500, 600 or so miles, I need to take that excuse me, dress nut off and re-torque the steering nut down again, because things will settle in and stretch a little bit. But what you do is you tighten it or torque it just until the steering starts to get some resistance, and that way you know that they've been fully seated, and then you back it off so that it's totally free. So we can do that by feel. We don't actually need a specific torque value on that. You can do it by feel. So that's what I'll be doing, just because I'm not buying a $90 one-purpose tool and putting the whole project behind 2 weeks for that. Like, there's no point. You don't need the tool. Okay, I have to realign the forks because all the hammering and stuff kind of drifted them around. It's just loosening the bottom pinch bolts and running the axle through the bottom, making sure they're straight, putting everything back in loosely, and then tightening everything back down once all the pieces are in place. That's it. Let's go ahead and reassemble this steering. That's might be it for me today. This has taken all afternoon. Oh, never again. Never again. So the first thing we have to do is pack the new bearing with grease. I'm going to put a glob in my hand. And we're going to really force it in there. Same thing we did with the other one, except it's not attached yet. Get every nook and cranny completely filled. Roll it around. Get it between all the rollers. Can't have too much. That's the only rule with greasing bearings. That, and don't drop it on the ground. Nope! Alright. So that's good and greased. Smear it on the inside of the race here too. Alright, I'm going to set this down on some plastic. Now we can bring our forks back into place. Got to be careful of all the wiring and stuff I got hanging. It's going to get messy. That's okay. This is where two people comes in handy also. Now the only thing I have to align here, you need to remember where these wires came across. So it's got this mounting bracket. You pretty much only get one shot on getting it aligned. So this all comes up like that. That just flips around. Alright, so it doesn't matter. As long as this goes in between, it's all good. So let's lift it up into place. Being very careful not to smash anything. Is that right or is that backwards? Yeah, that's right. It just looked, I'm used to the rake in my FJR, which is not nearly as extreme. I'm going to try and put this on the stool too. Or not. This wire out of the way. Alright, now as soon as I get this in place, I need to pop that new bearing down, and then the seal, which I didn't open. There's a new seal. Put that up there. Lock nut, bearing ready. Here we go. That's up. Hold that. New gooey bearing. Slides down. Seal. Fingers down or lip down. Lock washer. Just need to catch it enough so it's going to hold up here. And there we go. Whew. Not a fun one-man job. I'll tell you that right now. Now, we can torque that upper nut carefully by tapping it until the steering just gets a little bit of resistance. And we do that just by rotating it. It is butter smooth now. Love it. It's so much different than when I got it. So I'm going to go ahead and torque this down just until I feel resistance, and then you back it off about a quarter turn and it's set. Now again, we're mimicking about 60 foot-pounds on this nut right now. Still pretty free. And I'll tell you what, if you don't have the ability to really judge torque values like this, I mean, I'm taking an educated guess. There's nobody that can feel this. But you have to have some ability. If not, you have no choice but to get the special socket that goes on here, because this does need to be done fairly close, at least, to work right. And there we go. There's some resistance on the steering. So now we back it up. Let's see how free that is. There we go. That's real nice and free right there. A little bit more. Beautiful. Okay, let's see. This had a big old dust cap over the top. Where'd that go? There it is. I cleaned it off. That just sits in there. Just an extra layer of protection against gunk and dirt and all that kind of good stuff. Actually, what I noticed is the replacement bearings, they had this upper seal, and things aren't quite back into the same spot they were. This one over this frame lip with the stock bearings, and it doesn't quite cover it now. So I'm wondering if I should not use this new seal on the upper bearing. I bet I'm not supposed to. I'm gonna take this nut off real quick. Just see how it sits without that new seal in place and just using the stock cap. I think that might be the way to go. Of course, the manual and the parts breakdown, they only show the stock parts, so there is no seal by default. Just a stock dust cap. So I'm just kind of guessing. And the all balls instructions just say it may vary vehicle to vehicle. Well, no duh. Alright, that's finger tight, so now I gotta support these again because I want to slide back out. spin this off, take off this seal, zip this back down, just see what happens. I don't know, it's not that thick. I'm thinking leave it. I was thinking it was the entire thickness of the seal, but it's not. It's the bearing itself taking up the space difference there. So we'll go back to the way the new kit specifies the parts. Now what I'm not keen on is this gap now. Because this right here is completely open. This is the new bearing. Basically open to the side of the frame. When this goes on, it did go above that. Yeah, because it fits right there on the shoulder. I gotta think about this. Stand by. Haha! All else fails. Read the instructions. This goes underneath that lock nut. I just forgot when I was taking it off. So, off this comes. I've got that on upside down. Of course, it still goes on. So now, take this back off.
Still think a brake?
Yep.
Okay.
It's going to be a bobber. It's a Suzuki.
Did you scratch or what?
What you see is what I'm building from, yeah. Just the engine and frame.
Good. You can't wait to see it when you get it done.
Couple weeks.
Really? Wow. Good luck.
Thanks. Neighbor walking by. Okay. So now that's loose. Want this down. There we go. That's better. Now the lock nut. Now we're sealed against the frame. Nice and weather tight. Get this down as much as can by hand. Save time hammering. Okay, now retorque. And that should do it. There we go. Lot better. Told you it was my first time doing this project. There we go, a little bit of resistance, back and back off till it's free. A little more. A little more. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect. Ah. Very nice. Okay. What else do I have to do? Kind of running out of daylight for the valve adjustment. I guess I will finish up by putting back on the floorboards and then call it. Oh, and if you're wondering, I'm waiting on putting the top triple tree on because I need to see when the parts come on Tuesday what I need to do with the bar risers. I think I have to take the existing ones off and add some spacers or just swap them out. So I'll do that with it off the bike. There's no point in putting it back and then having to take it back off. So I'll clean all this up as soon as that stuff is ready on Tuesday. Let's see about getting this fake swing arm off. Looks like I need a real big Torx driver. That's odd. Let me go find one. No, it's not Torx, just a big Allen. Ooh, look, I'm taking it off with a torque wrench. Yeah, I'm still getting those morons commenting. You can tell they haven't watched the whole series. Because I even commented about how I'm sure to get all the internet know-it-alls when I use this as a breaker bar. I'll say it again, people. It's an old torque wrench that I don't use for torquing. This OCD, ADD guy, whatever, he went on this freaking rampage about how he's a certified tech and blah blah, you should only use blah blah blah. Fucking know-it-all. Douchebag, basically. It's a breaker bar, it's all I use it for, so all you can shut the fuck up. Gotta love all the internet know-it-all, especially on YouTube. It seems to really bring out the OCD know-it-alls. There should be a filter to be able to comment or not. Are you a socially inept know-it-nothing? You cannot comment. Haha. That would be hilarious. Alright, looks like I need a couple 10s for this, a couple 10s for these. Man, I think this whole cover comes off. That would be funny. I am going to save these fasteners, and there's a possibility this has to go on because I don't think so, but it's possible because I'm putting on a side mount tail light and plate, and I have a feeling it mounts here, but if it mounts here I shouldn't need this in the way. Maybe I can just put some spacers. I'd rather just not have this. Alright, now looking at these in here, I don't think I can even get a socket in there because this support's in the way. I don't really feel like taking this off because this is all welded and that's actually part of the frame, so that stays. Probably get a wrench in there. I gotta see. I know you can't see it because I can't even see it. I'd have to put a light on it. I barely got a socket to bite, and that's good enough. I can already see it falling off. What a waste of performance to add all this extra crap just for looks. There we go. That's a good few pounds. That's solid steel, man. All for nothing. Like I said, this one, this part over here, the center one holds the exhaust on, so that definitely can't go. But I don't know, I'm not seeing on the other side. I read on a forum they said part of the other side's fake too, but that just looks like a regular old triangular swing arm to me. And we still have the original triangle right here between the drive shaft holder and this upper U-shaped support. That's the actual swing arm. So boom, just made that look a lot better. I'm still going to have the plastic cover that ends right here, so it'll look super clean. Awesome. Got the right side here, all nice and painted. Boy, that came out great. Do love that finish. The rubber has these built-in threaded inserts. Just sits down in here. Pop them through the holes. It also has these little rubber nipples for locating. Probably have to pull those through with some pliers because they got a little shoulder on them. There we go. Couple left here at the bottom. Okay, now there were some rubber washers. Let's see, I think the metal ones went down. Then the rubber? No, rubber, then the metal. There we go. And then 3 little bolts holding the pads onto the assembly. Not going to worry about cleaning any of this up on the bottom. You never see it. It's just going to get dirty immediately anyway. Threads are clean, that's all that matters. I see somebody's done a little bit of scraping on the... No, that's actually stock. Let me look at the other one. I thought one of them was scraped a bit. Yeah, on the left side, on the feelers there. I need my 10 mil socket. German torque specs on these, good and tight. You don't want to rip anything on the other side. Okay. Now this is held onto the bike with this axle spring to retain it down and this E-clip which goes right in here. I'm going to clean all this up, put a little grease on contact points here so it doesn't squeak, and then I gotta get underneath and put this on, and then I'm going to go do the other side. That'll be it. Okay, question of the day. What are your thoughts on buying new versus used? So this is the first used bike I've ever bought. All 3 of my other ones were new, and I made the mistake of financing the first one, paid through the nose by the end of it. Got smart. Not going to do that again, new or used. If I can't afford it, I'm just going to save up, wait, just like I was making payments. I'll save it myself, and I'll earn the interest instead of paying it. I was paying about $60 a month in interest on that first bike. Just a complete rip-off. So, you bought new, you bought used. What do you like to do? If you're young, I can completely understand not having the cash outlay to buy something, and you might have to finance, or at least some of it. You know, riding is important, I'll give you that, but it's not a necessity. My advice, I know a lot of people won't take it, is still wait. You know, you don't need a bike. You might think you do, but you don't, and it's really expensive. If you can't afford to buy the bike, what makes you think you can afford the insurance and buying a huge outlay of good gear? You know, that's part of being a responsible motorcyclist. And you can see my other video on being a responsible motorcyclist for all my thoughts on that. So there you go, guys. We'll be back tomorrow, button the rest of it up. Just kind of running out of daylight here, and it looks like the storm's running in, so there's really not that much left to do. Today is Sunday. I don't know, I might work on some of this tonight. Who knows? Get some of it ready just off camera. And then we'll be ready Monday and Tuesday when all the parts come in. Probably Monday afternoon I'll be starting when the mail comes. And it's going to go quick. Give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Share the site. Share this video if you like the series. Tell your buddies. We'll see you next time.